morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm the Takanome, and welcome to my humble slices of the internet that are my YouTube and Twitch channels. And welcome to the reading stream. How is everyone doing today? I hope that you're doing well and maybe even had a good weekend. If not, well, I'm pretty sure you're doing better than our American president, but I do hope that this reading stream is a bit of a bright spot to your day. Tonight, we will continue reading Clockwork Twist, Book 11, Faith by Emily Thompson. Now, for those who may be new to the reading stream or maybe you forgot who the author is, allow me the opportunity to read, well, their bio to you. So, who is Emily Thompson? Emily Thompson is a non-binary author and artist originally from Northern California. Although they adore steampunk and all things Victoriana, they also write science fiction and fantasy. After studying film and animation in university, Emily changed to a Japanese language focus and studied in Tokyo. After receiving a language degree and spending a number of years abroad, they now live in Washington and spend most of their free time writing in coffee shops, painting, crocheting plushies, coding, and playing lots of cozy video games. And that is our author for the evening. Normally, before we begin the reading stream, we go through news for the channel. Well, I was going to say news for the channel or the reading stream, but now the channel and reading stream is basically one thing altogether, as opposed to having a reading stream and also a gaming stream on the same channel. So news for this channel. Well, this is the second to last Saturday of the year. Everyone, first of all, I'm going to say it again next Saturday as well. Thank you for joining this reading stream for as long as you have. They've made basically another full year. By the turn of the year, we would have been doing the reading stream for, let's see now, 4 years. We started in January of 2022, and now we're entering January of 2026. 4 whole years of the reading stream. So I know I have some listeners who have been there, perhaps from the very beginning, from the old channels even. And to you, I want to give my heartfelt thanks. This reading stream, honestly, probably would not have happened without the support of some of our older listeners here, and older as in long-time listeners. However, this does not mean I am not appreciative of new listeners as well, because without new listeners, without long-time listeners, this reading stream will, well, just be me talking into the void. So I do appreciate all of your support, and I always hope that everybody enjoys the reading stream. So, as far as news goes, we will have, I will make sure of this, we will definitely have a reading stream next Saturday to end the year. In hindsight, I should have made it a special day and we could have done like a special story type of deal. But with the holidays literally around the corner, I don't think we're going to have enough time to do that, but maybe that is something we can do next year. We shall see. As far as other news goes, well, for those who have been longtime listeners, you know that I used to do gaming streams as well, and I have taken a giant step back from streaming as much as I did. Before, I used to stream maybe 8 to 12, 15 hours a week. Now is basically 2 hours a week. This has been the only stream that I've been doing consistently ever since I took a step back, especially after moving the stream back to Saturdays as opposed to Sundays. However, I feel the urge, the itch, if you will, to stream some more. However, I do not believe I can handle regular 3, 4, 5 hour streams at a time for gaming. There are other things I'm doing in the background these days now that I have the opportunities, the space, and the means to do so. So I do not foresee me going back to doing regular long term gaming streams. However, one idea I've had, and I've mulled about this for a couple of years now, just never knew how to make it work. But I believe I might have an idea what this will look like. I have considered adding another streaming session to the reading stream. I do not think it'll be reading at the moment. I want to make sure that I still have enough time to do all of the other things I would like to do. But one thing I've considered doing is, in conjunction to the reading stream, also have a writing stream. So, for those who may not know, well, I've written a couple stories already, but I've only have one published story. And I still write, and I have a feeling that the stories I've been writing will eventually be part of a collection. But I thought maybe it would be fun just to spend an hour or two on stream writing, writing stories, coming up with ideas, and just seeing some of the quote unquote background work of coming up with a story, in particular, a story that I might write. So that is a thought I've had. We shall see. If we do have a writing stream in conjunction with a reading stream for this channel, then it will start early next year. So we shall see. Other news? Well, for this channel and this stream, I do not believe we have any other news. We have our very hot tea ready to go. We have a bottle of water in case I need an emergency drink. I could flip this over. I do not need to see my phone. And I believe we are ready to go. Making sure that we are actually ready to go here. It looks like it. Okay. But before we read Clockwork Twist, Book 11 Faith by Emily Thompson, we have to go over a recap. So allow me the opportunity to try to catch people up not only on the series, but where we are in the book. For most of his life, Twist had been alone. Orphaned as a baby, he would eventually repair clocks in a quiet, cozy shop in London. Thanks to his sight, his supernatural ability, he could repair just about anything simply by touching it to find what is broken. Unfortunately, this worked with people, thus making it virtually impossible for him to make physical contact with others. His life changed when a young woman requested his help to mend the mythical Clockwork Princess. Since then, he has discovered new worlds and made powerful friends and allies along the way. With his sky pirate friend Jonas and his wonderful clockwork fiancée Mira by his side, the world is a little easier to manage. It is not all fun and games, though. Dangerous and ancient forces wish to see his demise and will do anything to make it come true. Through the use of spells and wit, Twist and his friends have managed to avoid their grim fates. Until now. After offering shelter to two Kitsune samurai allies, Twist and his friends have departed New York City towards the battlefield. Pamut, the youngest crew member, wants to join the fight, However, his mother Kima strictly forbids it. A rift grows between mother, son, and Jonas, who is attempting to defuse the situation. Will they manage to repair relationships before battle? Or will the Fae find a way to exploit the growing divide? I'm hoping I have voices ready to go here. I believe I'm. Well, hold on. Before we actually start, let's take a sip of water. There we are. So, once again, this is Clockwork Twist, Book 11 Faith by Emily Thompson. We are currently on page 109. And with that, let's begin. Twist opened the bridge door and stepped inside. I'm fine, Jonas mentioned, not turning to look at him. He was standing at the windows in the front of the airship, gazing out at the horizon. Twist closed the door behind him and remained near it silently. The buzzing in his neck nearly ached for all the cold pain in it. There was embarrassment there, too, and the grumbling anger that wasn't helping at all. Judging by the bitterness of it, Twist imagined that most of the anger in Jonas now was aimed inward at himself. Twist already knew it would be pointless to speak of whether or not Jonas should have suggested that Pamut join their mission, and so he put the point aside entirely. Jonas's true pain, he suspected, came from Kima's misunderstanding his attempts to bond with and encourage the boy. She's a fool, Twist said after a long pause. No, she's not the fool, Jonas said, his tone disappointed. Only a fool will refuse your kindness for the sake of pride. Jonas smirked, glancing at Twist with silver eyes. That wasn't pride, and there is such a thing as doing too much to help. Kima hates to feel useless more than anything else. I was trying to do her job. No, she only thinks you were, Twist corrected him. All you're guilty of is loving her son. Jonas winced and looked away, the buzzing in Twist's neck sparking uncomfortably. Twist was surprised to find that any part of Jonas still saw his own natural compassion as a weakness. He thought that Jonas had learned otherwise. You clearly want what's best for both of them, Twist pressed, speaking with as much honesty as he could. You want Pamba to grow up strong and happy, and so you do want Quay. Apologies, I got confused there. But no, that is correct. There are no typos. I just read it wrong. Let's start that part over. You clearly want what's best for both of them, Twist pressed, speaking with as much honesty as he could. You want Pamba to grow up strong and happy, and so you do what Quay did for you. You are only trying to help him grow in the best man he could be, and all you ever done is support Kima. There's no reason for her to be angry or any of that. None of that's good for anything if she doesn't want it. It doesn't matter now. A tiny sliver of this new perspective of Kima's position, if she truly wanted none of Jonas's compassion or interest, sliced through Twist's anger, leaving his feelings confused and tangled. Every moment of unwanted attention he experienced in his life reminded him that, although Twist welcomed Jonas's concern, Kima actually might not. Daunted by this new alien landscape of thought, Twist tried to focus instead on Pamut's feelings. So, are you giving up on them? Twist asked. Pamut just told you how he feels. Jonas turned to him with a frown. He was angry. He didn't mean that. And as Kima pointed out, he's not my responsibility. I don't decide what's safe for him. She does. He never has been your responsibility, Twist replied with a shrug. It's never stopped you from caring about him before. Jonas gave a mirthless laugh and shook his head. Go away, Twist. No, Twist said, stepping closer. Jonas shot him a glare, but Twist's words were already poised to attack, and the fire behind them could not be quenched with just a look. Listen, we both know you're not fond of showing compassion, Twist said. But you put Kima under your care for the moment we met her, and you took an interest in the boy before you even got him out of Fairy. I never really questioned why you decided to take him on as you have. I simply assumed that you were doing so for Kima's benefit. But now I see that I was wrong. For whatever reason, Puma gained your love on his own. From experience, I know how valuable your compassion can be. Don't give up on him because of an argument. You have a very strange opinion of me, Jonas grumbled. Don't deflect, Twist said with a frown. Jonas gave a sigh and looked to the horizon again. He let the silence stretch while Twist grew anxious. Twist wanted to be angry at Kima just for hurting Jonas, but he couldn't now. But even imagining how Jonas might have hurt her, Twist still couldn't see Jonas as a villain. The sheer confusion of it all was maddening. Children are curious, aren't they? Jonas asked before Twist could come up with anything to say. A grown man asks you for the time, and you might or might not bother yourself to answer him. A child asks you for a lifetime of hard work, resources, and worry, and you give it gladly. Thrown slightly by this train of thought, Twist held his tongue. Curiosity dimmed his anger enough for him to see that Jonas's own anger had vanished completely. Twist moved closer and stood beside his friend, looking out at the horizon as well, to better sense Jonas's state of mind. A soft, subtle anxiety rose in the buzzing at his neck as the silence between them began to stretch again. When Twist looked questioningly at Jonas, who didn't meet his gaze, but instead seemed to gather his courage, Twist waited, unable to imagine what he was about to hear. Remember that future I got from looking at Kima? Jonas asked, his voice low and cautious. The one you saw right after you rescued Pamut from Fairy? Twist asked. Jonas nodded. You said you saw yourself looking directly into Kima's eyes in the future, and your sight didn't react at all? Twist went on, remembering it well. Didn't you say that Pamut would be there as well, and that he'll be nearly as tall as you by the time this happens? You said that means your vision can't come to pass for a few years yet. That's not the only reason I know it'll be years from now, Jonas said, his voice growing tight. The implications of what Jonas has so far shared of this vision has shaken them both already. The very idea that Jonas and Twist might both somehow lose their sights was at once encouraging and terrifying. They might be able to live ordinary lives in such a state, but they will also lose their greatest skills. But Twist also now recalled that Jonas had held back a detail that he'd seen in the vision. The idea that this detail could be more alarming than the first gave Twist a shudder. I'm going to glance at Kima, calm as can be, Jonas said, forcing himself on. And I'll see no vision when I do, just like I said. But then... His words stopped suddenly, the anxiety and the buzzing at Twist's neck rising sharply. Then I'll get distracted by something, turn away to look at it. What's going to distract you? Twist asked, his own trepidation making him unsure if he even wanted to know the answer to this question. Jonas took a steadying breath. I'll hear something. A voice. A young girl calling to me. I didn't see her in my vision because I was so startled that it ended before I could turn to her. Twist frowned. You're terrified by the idea that a young girl will call out to you? Jonas looked at Twist, his eyes a bright, frightened, pale yellow color. I'll hear her call out to her daddy. Twist gasped before he could stop himself. Jonas looked away, nervous and uncomfortable. Of all the thousand things Twist had imagined Jonas might say, this one had never occurred to him. Twist struggled to come up with some response. Good heavens, was all he managed. Jonas gave a sigh and shook his head. There's no way she was calling to someone else? Nope, Jonas answered. It felt like my name when she said it, and I'll turn to answer her. She'll be calling to me, so, he said, with a high ting of fright in the buzzing at Twist's neck. Unless I find myself adopting a random little girl, she'll be your own daughter, Twist finished for him. Your own blood? Twist felt the uncomfortable ripple of hearing those words waft through the buzzing at his neck as Jonas grimaced. You don't want to have a family? Twist guessed wildly. Do I look like a good father to you? Jonas asked aghast. I drink, I cheat, I lie. I'm not a nice person. I'm a bloody pirate. I don't have any idea how to be a father. You could have fooled me the way you were with Pamut. Jonas fell quiet. Just a moment, Twist said as his thought occurred to him. Were you practicing on him? Getting used to the idea of caring for a child by caring for him? Jonas shrugged. I don't think so. I just saw him and remembered feeling that lost and alone when I was his age. I might have had a very different childhood than he has, but the look is the same. I know what he's going through, what he has to overcome. I was just trying to help, but I was too selfish. I should have talked to Kima a long time ago, found out what she wanted. He gave a sigh. Or I could have just listened to her. Twist glanced to him, startled to hear such honest self-criticism from Jonas, of all people. Jonas's spirit turned darker still. I didn't bother to listen for so long that she had to shout at me to make me hear her. But you've seen them both in the future, Twist offered, hoping to redirect the conversation onto less treacherous ground. Your visions are never wrong. Everything will work out. It has to. Yeah, well, maybe we'll all reconnect in a few years, Jonas muttered bitterly. I don't think Kima trusts me anymore. I wouldn't. Twist resisted the urge to speak ill of Kima for her actions out of pure reflex, realizing now that it wouldn't really help. Then, a new question arose in his thoughts. Wait, who will be the girl's mother? No idea, Jonas admitted. I didn't even see the girl's face. I couldn't guess. His words fell away into silence, while a subtle wave of anxiety in him made Twist suspect that Jonas had guessed after all and now refused to admit it. Just like always, Jonas went on with a sigh. My vision showed me just enough to give me nothing but questions. Well, Twist said with a heavy breath, I can see now why you couldn't tell me about the girl in your vision before. I imagine I'd be rather shaken by that idea myself if I had a vision like that of my own future. But I can also see why it changed you. Jonas looked to him skeptically. You're not going to be able to stop yourself from caring about your own daughter, and there'll be no reason for you to hide it either. But that's rather going to let the cat out of the bag and prove that you're not actually a heartless cur now, isn't it? So, what's the point of bothering to stop yourself from caring about anyone else at all? Because I can still mess it up, Jonas grumbled. Kima shouldn't have shouted at you, Twist mentioned. You've done 1,000 kind things for her. She could have taken you aside and had an honest but calm conversation. Jonas shrugged. Twist sighed. Most people don't repay kindness the way she did. She never told you to leave her be, asked she? How were you to know she was unhappy if she wouldn't say? Twist realized that the confusion was getting to him and shook his head to clear it. I just think she should have spoken to you instead of shouting. After all, Twist was still here. Jonas had made Twist angry in the past, and Twist had made Jonas angry, but they had both always gotten through it. Yeah, I guess, Jonas said, his tone drawing dangerously close to a smirk. After all, no matter what I do to him, I'm sure I'll always have Vane. Twist smiled and let Jonas have his diversion this time. Oh yes, that's eternal. But then again, Jonas went on thoughtfully, he hasn't so much as flirted with me since we took him on. I wonder if there really is something between him and Rafe, beyond the usual Kizune friendliness. I'm sure I wouldn't know, Twist said, shaking his head. I'm rubbish at working out other people's feelings. Jonas glanced to him knowingly. So, you're still sticking to that story, are you? Twist looked back at him, caught awkwardly between feeling affronted and the surprise of being found. Wasn't he still actually bad at understanding people? Hadn't he just spent the last few minutes explaining Jonas to himself? Then again, maybe he only understood Jonas. Mira still managed to confuse him frequently. Anyway, Jonas went on, it'll be good for Vane to have someone. He was much easier to handle when he was courting Jiren, even if she was only playing with him. At least he's more likely to leave me alone when he's distracted. Twist imagined that, after revealing such a sensitive piece of his mind and discussing his fears and confusion about the future, Jonas would be pleased to speak about anything in the world just now. Twist obliged, watching as his friend's battered spirit began to lighten. Twist did his best to encourage Jonas back into a lighter, more comfortable mood, while he also struggled to bury his own confusion over Kima. Here we're going to take a chapter break. Let's see how our tea is doing. The cup is still very hot. Correction. The cup is not very hot, it is just normal hot. And the tea, as always, delicious. Hmm. Once again, I want to thank you all for joining the reading stream, whether you're here live on Twitch or YouTube, or you're listening to the VOD. I hope that you're enjoying the story thus far, as well as the reading of this story. Let's see here. And with that, we're going to go into our next chapter. Once Jonas appeared stable again, Twist left him alone on the bridge. The moment he stepped out onto the deck and closed the door behind him, however, Vane approached with worried eyes.
Is he alright?
The kitsune asked anxiously.
I would have followed you, but I wasn't sure I could help. He always gets angry when I try to be sweet to him.
He's all right, Twist answered, silently stunned that Vane had hesitated at all. If you really want to help, I suggest you don't mention anything about what happened with Kima. Let him put it all behind him. Vane nodded, his expression serious.
I'm glad he has a good friend like you, Twist.
Friend? Twist echoed, surprised. I thought you were convinced he and I were closer than that, he added sourly.
No,
Vane said with a sheepish shake of his head.
I was too young to understand before. I see it now. You two might be very close, but friendship and romance are two very different things. If anything, you're like brothers.
Well, yes, I suppose so, Twist said. I must say, it's very good to hear you say that. Was it really just your age that caused the confusion? Vane gave a shrug.
Not completely. I had to learn to listen too. Inari and the others are very good about helping younger Kisune to learn and progress. They help me a lot. Rafe is extra understanding,
he added with a warm smile.
He can make anyone's day better.
Ah, yes, Twist said, glancing over the now empty deck. Wasn't he trying to calm Pumbut? Where's the boy now? He looked very distressed.
Rafe used some glamour to calm him down,
Vane answered.
You know, like what Inari can do,
Vane explained when Twist's confusion became apparent.
When she looks at you, and the whole rest of the world just disappears.
That is magic, Twist said, Remembering the staggering effects of the nine-tailed kitsune's gaze, looking into her eyes had caused Twist's heart to race and his breath to grow short, while the entirety of his existence paled in comparison to the beauty of her subtle smile. Twist shuddered. Rafe can do that too?
Well, he's not as powerful as Inari.
Vane said.
No one is. But yes, if he really tries, he can calm down just about anybody. Yep, I'll relax. And then that pretty magician says she'll show him some magic. They're all in the kitchen now.
Twist nodded, still slightly unnerved by the idea of this particular form of kitsune magic. And what about you, Vane? He asked hesitantly. Can you calm people down by looking at them? He asked, suddenly nervous to meet the kitsune's black gaze. Vane shook his head.
I've only got 2 tails, and the second one's still new. I'm still trying to learn how to travel. I won't have any glamour until I get my next tail.
Twist resisted the urge to express his relief. I see. Now that Vane had been reassured that leaving Jonas to himself would be the wisest thing to do, he went to join Rafe and the others in the kitchen. Twist checked his watch and guessed that they still have an hour or two at least before reaching their destination. Rather than joining the others or looking in on how Mira and Kima might be getting on, Twist decided to take this time to rejuvenate his own spirit. Twist went to his cabin and snatched up his magical book, meaning to find a comfortable perch on the deck and pass the remains of the day with reading. The moment he stepped over the threshold of his cabin and back into the hallway, however, he heard an exasperated sigh from the level below. Glancing down through the stairway, he saw no one, but Kima's door now stood open. Another door closed softly, muffling the soft sounds of others in the kitchen. Twist instantly assumed that someone had just left Kima's cabin, and guessed it might be Mira. As he tarried, Kima appeared, her hand grasping the edge of the door to close herself inside her cabin. She glanced up before the door moved much, meeting Twist's eyes. Hers were red and damp, and they flashed with embarrassment when she found Twist looking back. Twist moved instantly, meaning to leave the hallway and retreat to the open deck as quickly as possible. Twist, Kima's voice asked, stealing his steps before he reached the door to the deck. Twist turned as she hurried up the stairs to meet him. Then she paused, looking away, her face contorted with concentration as she clearly tried to form her words. The weight of the book in Twist's hand beckoned him gently away to the calm comfort and the delicious understandability of fiction. He tried to work out the least offensive way to escape. Twist, Kima began, speaking before he could form much of a plan. What the hell does Jonas even want from me? She dragged her gaze up to meet his, as if expecting a battle. What? Twist asked, thrown by the question. Why did he come along? She asked instead. Why did he drag all of you into this? I know Tasha planned it that way, but she didn't tell us about it. Jonas hates Aiden. I'm only here because I'm worried about my people. This is my problem. It's nothing to do with him. Why does he always insist on helping me and complimenting me? I know he had a nice vision of me when he was little, but that's all over now. And Pamo's got nothing to do with it, really. What have either of us ever done for him? I just don't understand. Even though she discounted it, Twist knew exactly how powerful Jonas's first vision of her had been to him. The bright, happy future vision of Kima had appeared to Jonas in his darkest hour, years before either of them would meet, and had become a powerful source of hope for the rest of his life. That many years of favorable thought, the fact that Jonas and Kima seemed to share exactly the same sense of humor, that they had grown close very quickly, and were now forever locked in a battle of compliments, was all more than enough to explain his feelings. But the confused nature of her words made Twist suspect that she hadn't asked the question she truly wanted to, and so he answered her more generally. As for what he wants from you, I'm sure he never asked you or Pamut for anything you wouldn't like to give him. That's not why he tries to help. I honestly don't think he wants anything in return but your happiness. But don't let Jonas's words or anyone else's assessment of him fool you. I never met a man with more compassion than Jonas. He cares deeply and easily, but he also considers doing so to be a sign of weakness and tries to hide it. Kima listened to him with a skeptical expression. Why would anyone think that there's anything wrong with caring about other people? Hmm, why do you think there is something wrong with letting yourself be helped? Twist asked back. Kima's expression darkened as she shook her head, her arms crossed. Lots of people say they'll help you. The Americans said they would help by civilizing our children, but all they did was take them away. The ciphers said they would set us free. Aiden said he would protect me and Storm. Even my husband said he would take care of Storm so I could join the hunting party. But then I came home as an outsider. Storm hardly even talked to me. And it's not as if my husband and I married for love. Why wouldn't I stay out of a hunt with a home like that? Of course, I don't know how to raise a child. Ori was the one who stayed home, not me. Twist suddenly realized that somewhere along the way, she stopped talking to him. He considered slowly stepping away and leaving her to herself, but he feared that any motion would bring her attention back to him. Despite his best efforts at invisibility, Kima's gaze flitted back to Twist. Realization flashed through her eyes. She rubbed at her face with her hands, letting out a groan. I'm sorry, she muttered. I must look mad. Maybe I am, she added with fatigue. Twist resigned himself to the fact that he wasn't going to be able to get away until she found some kind of answer to her confusion. Kima, Twist tried, forcing himself to speak gently. I can understand that you have plenty good reasons to be guarded with your trust, especially when your son is involved. But if there's one man in the world you can trust, it's Jonas. I don't think he's even capable of betraying you or your son. Kima gave another sigh, clearly finding no comfort in Twist's assertion. I don't even know what Jonas is doing with Pamut. When I try to talk to Pamut, he drifts further away. But no matter what Jonas says, it's always just what Pamut wants to hear. Why don't you ask Jonas what he's doing? Kima looked up to Twist sharply. I'm Pamut's mother. I shouldn't have to ask anyone for anything, especially not someone who has nothing to do with him. But you'll never learn how to raise a child, Twist pointed out. You just said so, and to be quite honest, I'm sure Jonas doesn't know either. But maybe together, the two of you could work something out. You've seen Jonas and Pamut together, Kima protested. Jonas knows exactly what he's doing, and I really don't, she added. She sounded miserable for an instant before she recovered the truth with a scowl to one side. Jonas has only been enjoying the boy's company, Twisted countered. He treats him like a friend, like a crew member. He probably rather likes being looked up to as well, I'm sure. Who wouldn't? But being friendly and being a parent have got to be different things, surely. That bastard, Kima hissed, suddenly incensed. You're right. He's just being Pamut's friend. I don't get to do that. I have to be responsible. It's no wonder Pamut likes him better. Twist began to feel a bit dizzy from her constantly shifting logic. Of course, he said, desperate to cling to one line of thought at a time. If it's true, then that could only mean that Jonas has always known that you were the parent, and he was just the friend. Kima's eyes closed as she sighed again. Yes, I know. I was a fool to say what I did. I just got so scared when he said that. Her words fell away, and her face flashed with pain. You were frightened? Twist muttered softly, amazed. Twist had never considered that she was simply afraid. Afraid of losing of her son's affections, afraid of him being hurt, afraid of not knowing what she was doing. All of it sounded reasonable, logically, but none of it sounded like Kima. As far as Twist had known, she was fearless. Kima gave a quiet sigh, looking away from him, but didn't reply. Well, Twist offered quickly, maybe Pama assumed too much. I'm sure he didn't really mean what he said. And maybe Jonah should have asked for your permission before he encouraged the boy in any particular direction. Maybe I shouldn't have let my fear make me cruel, Kima added. The last of Twist's cold feelings toward Kima began to fade as he heard hopelessness ring in her voice now. Maybe her fears didn't only surround her son. She might also fear that Jonas was lying about all the nice things he always said to her. After all, everyone else in her life had lied. Naturally, she'd be much safer if she were entirely alone. But now that she thought she'd finally pushed Jonas away, the chill of loneliness was already settling in. Something about this reasoning felt oddly familiar to Twist. He'd done much the same for his entire life until Jonas and Mira had taken possession of his heart. Jonas might be angry if he heard me say this, Twist said softly, glancing over his shoulder just to be absolutely sure they were alone in the hallway. But you haven't lost him. Kima's dark gaze locked onto his, her expression as guarded as a dragon's keep. He would keep himself distant from you and your son if that's really what you want, Twist went on. But I don't think his concern for either of you will ever diminish in the least, no matter what happens between the three of you. But why? She asked, sounding exhausted now. Why would he care about us at all? We have nothing to do with him. Kima, that's only true if you make it that way. In my experience, family has little to do with blood. You'll be surprised how easy it is to start a new one, he added, recalling how quickly he and Jonas had truly become like brothers. He certainly felt closer to many of his friends than he did to any of his own blood relations. Kima's face flashed with an instant of naked wonder. Fresh confusion rippled through Twist's heart as he wondered what had been surprising about what he just said. Kima shook her head quickly and pulled on a stern frown. No, no. It's too late for anything like that. He doesn't even... Does he? Do I? She asked, her voice softening into apprehension as she gripped the charm that hung around her wrist with the other hand. He compliments me, sure, but that's just friendly, right? It's not... Is it? Twist suddenly realized that she'd taken his words very differently than he intended her to, and that his plain speech had led him away from mere advice and squarely into someone else's private business. His sense of propriety writhed uncomfortably within him. I'm sorry, Twist said stiffly, overly aware of the distance to the door behind him. I'm not very good at making sense of other people. I'm sure I've misread something somewhere. Is there anything else I can help you with? Kima looked back at him sheepishly. Right, she muttered distantly, her thoughts still wrapped tightly around something Twist dearly wished he couldn't guess at. Of course. Yes, I'm just a mess today. Sorry to bother you. No trouble at all, Twist lied out of reflex. Kima continued to stare into space, as if she hadn't even heard him, fiddling absently with the charm and the enchantment on it, which had been fueled by Jonas's blood and freely offered love. He knew her thoughts had flown back to that moment as well. Jonas had offered his blood for the spell, and the enchantment had taken hold as it should, but he never given a real but he never given any real explanation for his feelings. Kima's mind was obviously working furiously to find a cause on her own. Twist took his chance, offered a slight nod, and turned on his heel before she could call him back. Here we are. Here we are taking a chapter break. Gonna sip some tea here. I want to take the time to thank you all for joining this reading stream, whether you're here live or you're listening to the VOD. I appreciate all the support that these channels receive, whether it is likes or follows. Well, not subscriptions because we don't have that on Twitch right now, but maybe in the future. If you're just listening in the background, lurking, or you tell friends and family and say, hey, there's a guy on Twitch and YouTube who does reading streams on Saturday nights, and it's a joy to listen to his different voices as he struggles to keep them in check. Again, I appreciate all the support that these channels receive. There we go. Speaking of support, don't forget to support our author, Emily Thompson. You can see on the screen, you have 2 links where you can easily support our author. Now, for those who may be wondering, what kind of tea am I drinking? Well, I am drinking an old favorite here for the reading stream. It is called the Clockmaker, which I believe this may be my last batch here. I need to check to see if I have another one available. But the Clockmaker tea is comprised of roasted green tea, regular green tea, orange peel, black tea, pure tea, rose petal, and pine smoke. And I will say with this tea, when it's nice and warm, you can really taste that, well, smoky taste, if you will, that smoky flavor in the tea, which you would think maybe would not taste that great, but it is surprisingly nice. And I know what you're thinking, Taka, 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 Taka. Where, oh where, can I find this tea? Well, I know a place you can find this tea. It is a very special place, a place that you could find in Seattle, Washington, a place that has a wide variety of teas that I know will tickle your fancy. A place called Friday Afternoon, the tea shop in Seattle, Washington. If you go to their website, www.fridaytea.com, as I said, you will find a wide variety of teas that will tickle your fancy. Tonight, I want to tell you about the hot buttered yum, which I keep wanting to say hot buttered yam, but there's a U and not an A. So, hot buttered yum, it is part of the winter seasonal collection, so it is available for order until March 3rd. In this tea, the description goes as follows. This butter rum flavored black tea contains little bits of real toffee for a pre-sweetened cup of decadent comfort. Pro tip: try with a touch of cream, Irish or otherwise. Ingredients: black tea, toffee, natural butter rum flavoring. And again, this tea is part of the winter seasonal rotation, so that means it is available from now until March 3rd. There are 8 reviews here. 4.88 out of 5 stars. This first review from March of 2025 is a 4-star review. They wrote, sweet and yummy. Really enjoyed it as a cold afternoon soother. Not sure why they gave it 4 stars. That sounded like a 5-star to me, but I do not rate other people's ratings. The next one is from February of 2025. They wrote, a truly yummy, perfectly named tea. This is perhaps my new favorite blend. The aroma and flavor are delicious, and the toffee carries through and beautifully complements the tea. And another review from, well, last year actually, almost a complete year ago, December of 2024. Perfect winter flavor. I first ordered this last year and have been waiting patiently for it to be available again. Hot buttered yum is exactly what it says it is. yummy, buttery, toffee-ish comfort in a cup. I put a little sweetener in it, and it's perfection. One of my faves. And there you have it. If this tea sounds delicious to you and you think, boy, I would like to put a cup of yum in my mouth, again, this tea is called the Hot Buttered Yum and is available until March 3rd. And you can find this at www.fridaytea.com. Again, that is www.friday, like the day, and tea, like the drink.com. And again, they do not pay me to do this. They do not know that I still do this. They knew at one point. I don't think they checked in lately. But they do not know I still do this. That I just give them free promotional things because why not? I enjoy their tea, and no, I am not being blackmailed. No one is holding a knife to my throat at the moment. I promise I do not have to blink twice if I'm in distress. I just enjoy their teas. Mm. Although I admit, I kind of want to check here. I feel as if, one moment, everyone. I'm going to check my little tea box here, see if I have any more Clockmaker left. One moment. Oh, that's in the way. Well, it seems that this is my last cup of the Clockmaker for quite a while. Well, let's double check here. Can I order another one? I know I have some new teas coming in pretty soon. Oh, it is now available year round, so I will have to make a new order of the Clockmaker tea soon. So I'll be doing that soon enough. But as we wait for the tea to come in through the mail, that gives us opportunity to try some other teas in the interim, which I'm pretty happy about because I have Anansi's Web coming again. And perhaps my second favorite tea of all the teas that I've ever drank on the reading stream. And the first one, of course, is the Fairy Queen because that one is criminally delicious. Once again, I do want to thank you all for joining this reading stream. I hope that you are enjoying the story as well as the reading of the story. I believe we have at least one more chapter in us, maybe two. It honestly depends how much energy I have left. But we're going to continue to do our best until the very end. So with that, let's go back into our story. The last miles to their destination passed uneventfully while the crew sought after their own interest. Kima remained in her cabin, and Twist failed to focus on his book. No matter how he tried to keep his mind on the pages, the reality around him whispered at his attention. He eventually gave up trying to read and joined Jonas and Tasha on the bridge as the Icarus finally drew close to her destination. The flying village was normally hidden in plain sight by a magic shroud, making it completely invisible to the eye. But as the Icarus drew closer, Tasha having neared the exact location to Jonas, the village's position was easily spotted. A fleet of Rook airships hung in a ring in the morning light, surrounding a rather large but apparently empty patch of air. On the desert floor below, Twist could see a huge camp of men, complete with airship landing platforms, with more airships at the ready, watchtowers, and very large cannons pointed up at the scattered clouds. Not exactly subtle, are they? Jonas asked darkly. As I said, Tasha answered with a sigh, the rooks are desperate and panicked. That's just the way I like an army, Jonas grumbled. Twist's own anxiety rose as he realized that those weapons were aimed not only at Cypher's and Kiba's village, but at every man, woman, and child within it as well. If anything were to go wrong, they could all be in jeopardy. The bridge door opened behind Twist, pausing his inner horrors. Pamut stood on the threshold, looking quite miserable indeed. His face was flushed and his eyes were red, though he seemed to have taken control of his emotions.
Oh,
He muttered, his shoulders hunched up, his head low, and his hands clutched nervously together as he glanced around at Twist, Tasha, and Jonas.
are you busy? You must be busy. I'm sorry. It's not important.
As Pama began to back away and close the door again, Jonas caught Twist's eye and nodded at the helm before he turned away from it completely and approached the boy. Pama, wait, he said, sounding for once just as exhausted as Kima did when she talked to her son. Twist took Jonas's place at the helm, keeping the airship moving steadily closer to the rooks at a slow, non-threatening speed. He glanced back to see that Pamut remained and that Jonas was kneeling before him. We should probably talk, you and I, Jonas said reluctantly.
I broke everything, didn't I?
Pamut asked, his voice tight against tears. Twist glanced back again to see Jonas reach out to the boy and wrap him tightly in his arms. Pamut fell into his embrace, helpless against his own grief as he began to sob softly. Twist and Tasha both turned their attentions politely away, looking out through the windows in the bow of the airship. Twist's sight murmured to him through his grip on the helm, telling him of points of tension and ease as the sky held the ship aloft with 1,000 tiny fingers. Twist did what felt right to keep the airship moving smoothly. There, Jonas said gently to Pamut, tugging Twist's attention back. It's not your fault.
Yes, it is.
Pamut protested, his voice muffled by Jonas's shoulder and his own tears. Look, I'm flattered by what you did, Jonas went on calmly, but it was cruel to your mom. Whether she lets you do what you want or not, she loves you. Every single thing she does is for you. A child might not understand that, but a man would. Pamut's sniffling ceased into a thoughtful silence. Unable to fight his own curiosity, Twist glanced back to find the boy now standing straight as he looked back at Jonas. His tears stopped, his face set and grim. Remembering how emotional Storm had been in times like these, Twist was astonished by how well Pamut was responding. He seemed much older than Storm already. When Pamut spoke again, his voice was clear.
I'm sorry. I never wanted to make Mom mad at you.
It's all right, Jonas replied. But it's really not your fault. Kima was already upset with me before you said anything. But don't worry, everything will work out. Someday, you and I will be happy together, enjoying a day out with your mom in a beautiful garden. I've seen it. It's going to happen.
You had a vision of my future?
Pamuk gasped.
Oh, yeah. When you lose your sight.
He added with a ripple of worry. Jonas nodded. Yes, but that aside, it really will be a lovely day. You and I and your mom will all be there, together. My visions always happen the way I see them. Even if I don't know how we're going to get there, I know that all three of us will be just fine. Twist smiled to himself. Apologies. Twist smiled to himself, his eyes once again trained on the course before them. He knew now that it wouldn't just be the three of them in the garden in the future. Jonas's daughter would be there with them too. Pumba took a deep breath that sounded calm. Jonas got back to his feet. Thank you for coming to apologize, Jonas said, but I'm not the one who really needs to hear it.
Yeah.
Pamut muttered. Go tell her you're sorry and that you didn't mean it, Jonas said, his tone stern but still gentle. She needs that. You think it'll help? Pamut asked skeptically. I'm sure of it, Jonas answered. All right, Pamut said, sounding as if he were stealing his courage. I'll go right now. Thank you, Jonas said, sounding very relieved. Pamut left the bridge, and Jonas returned to the helm, taking control back from Twist. Tasha smiled at Jonas from the side. What? Jonas snapped at her. Tasha leaned closer and placed a kiss on Jonas's cheek. He froze, startled. You're a good man, Jonas, Tasha said. Kima is very lucky. What's that supposed to mean? Jonas grumbled. Twist felt the uncomfortable ripples that Tasha's comment had sent through Jonas's spirit buzzing at his own neck now. Tasha patted him on the back gently, not saying anything to explain herself. Despite his denial, Twist knew that Jonas understood her perfectly well, as he did himself. Pleased as could be, Tasha turned and left the bridge without another word. This bloody know-it-all, Jonas muttered, wiping at his cheek. Twist suppressed his urge to chuckle. Here we're going to take one more chapter break. Doing a bit of a stretch here. I'm surprised that I am doing as well as I'm doing right now. I've technically been awake since 4 something in the morning. I believe after the reading stream, I'm going to finish my cup of tea and take a nice, relaxing evening. But before we do that, once again, everyone, thank you for joining this reading stream so far. I hope that you've been enjoying the story as well as the reading of this story. And again, I do appreciate all the support that these channels receive, and be sure to support the author as well. Without authors, such as Emily Thompson, if you will, we would not actually have a reading stream. Of course, I can always reread stories that everybody knows, but I believe it is nicer to explore new stories from people who are still alive now. No offense to authors who've passed away. Actually, we're going to take a quick sip before we go. Make sure we don't have a dry mouth here. And with that, we're going to go into our final chapter of the evening.
So, do we have a plan or?
Vane asked. They had pulled to a stop 100 feet from the desert floor, just outside the Rook camp. Twist had seen some of the Rook's guns point in their direction until Tasha made a call on a black pocket watch. The guns then turned back to the invisible village, and none of the Rooks seemed to pay the Icarus any mind at all. The rest of the crew stood together now on the deck of the Icarus, looking up through the glass at the ring of the airships a little way off into the sky. Kima had finally emerged from her cabin as well, but she stood on the opposite side of the group from Jonas and hadn't so much as looked at him yet. She appeared grim, stoic, and inflexible. Despite Twist's efforts, an apology looked like the furthest thing from her mind. Pamut lingered at the edge of the group, as if he were trying not to catch anyone's notice. Well, Tasha said to Vane in answer, now that we're here, we can finally build our plan. She looked over the airships and the rooks on the ground. Kima, she said, turning to her, I was considering stealing a different airship to keep the Icarus out of harm's way, but now that I see how the rooks have arranged things, and also given the ship's speed, I highly suggest we take the Icarus itself inside the magical field. If you want your son to remain outside, we might want to ask the rooks to watch him for you. Kima didn't seem to like the idea of leaving her son with rooks. Twist glanced to Pamut, who was glowering at the deck, his arms crossed. If anyone else who doesn't wish to participate should do the same, Tasha mentioned, glancing about to the others. Her eyes touched on Jonas and paused. Jonas frowned when he noticed this. I thought you planned to bring Twist and Mira and I all along in the first place. I'd love to have you join us, Tasha answered earnestly, but I would understand if you changed your mind recently. Kima snapped her eyes closed and turned aside as if Tasha's implications hit her like a slap in the face. Jonas glared back at Tasha, just missing catching her gaze in his own. Tasha, I'm surprised at you. I thought you noticed everything. Of course I haven't changed my mind. This is dangerous as hell. I'm not just letting you, Nico, and Kima go in there alone. At the mention of her name, Kima's attention shot to him. Tasha nodded, putting on a good show of being corrected, but Twist couldn't shake the feeling that she never doubted Jonas's resolve at all. Had she intentionally forced him to speak his mind? Nico smirked at Jonas. It's so sweet that you cared about me, Jonas. Shut up, Jonas snapped. Nico chuckled to himself.
Well, if Johnny is going into battle, then I'm coming too,
Vane added with a proud stance. Rafe gave an asserting nod to Tasha as well, offering his support with the least possible effort. Jonas looked toward the two kitsune with suspicion but said nothing. Twist and Mira only nodded to Tasha, neither of them seeming to feel that they needed to make any verbal declarations at all. Pamut glared at the deck, seething with pent-up annoyance. Kima watched all of them with a pained expression, but Tasha smiled warmly at everyone. I see, Tasha said primly. Well, my original plan was to ask you to use the Icarus to get inside, and then Pamut might try to deactivate the spell that is holding the rooks at bay. Pamut's face washed over with hope. He looked to his mother, but she pointedly didn't look back at him. Thus, Tasha went on, causing the ciphers to defend themselves, and also causing enough confusion to free the Duchu from whatever is holding them inside the village, so they might escape before the rooks can respond with a full attack. But it's been made very clear that the boy isn't coming into battle. Palmer's hopes crashed into belligerence, and he gave a sigh. Kima looked at Tasha ungratefully. Tasha looked back at her without any obvious emotion. But without any chance of causing that much confusion, Tasha continued, I believe that we'll still have a chance. We may be able to free everyone and break a spell without the boy's help. Not that any of us understand magic, but then we have all faced narrow odds like this before. Well, she amended, maybe not this narrow, but I wouldn't say it's exactly impossible. Does anyone else have any other ideas? She asked the others. Everyone glanced to Pamut, and then to Kima. The boy still stood silently, arms crossed, expression sour, once again looking to twist exactly like a smaller copy of Jonas. Kima's hands were over her face, her posture a picture of fatigue and frustration. Twist, rather impressed and also dubious, looked back at Tasha. Despite Tasha's heavy, manipulative words, Kima said nothing. Pamut, can you tell me how to break the spell? Jonas asked the boy. Pamut gave a sigh. I've only seen one bloodlock before. If this one is like that one, then all you have to do is change the water totems for something like Nightshade or the feather of a bird that only sings at night. If you don't do that before you break the circle, the spell could turn into a transportation spell instead and take the whole village into fairy. And if it's not like the one you saw? Jonas asked, now looking nervous. Palmut shook his head.
I have to see it. We could just try to free Kima's people and the magpies without breaking the spell,
Mira offered, her hope sounding thin and strained. I'm afraid that was Aiden's plan, Tasha said sadly. It clearly didn't work out for him. It's possible that the spell also keeps them inside. But if not, at least by breaking the spell without warning, both the ciphers and the rooks will be caught off guard. Either way, it's the only advantage I can see us using. Aiden went in there and lost, Kima said, her voice soft and weak. Everyone looked to her. He could be dead already, and he's Aiden. Can any one of you tell me for certain that my son will set foot in there and survive? No one responded for a moment. It's your choice, Kima, Jonas said. If you say he doesn't go, then he doesn't go. We'll work something out. We're good at that, he added with a shrug. Everyone remained silent as Kima looked back at Jonas in quiet amazement. Twist's pride bloomed, watching his friend take this understanding and supportive stance, even after Kima had relinquished all right to it. Pamut looked to Jonas and then to his mother. His jaw set with determination, and he stepped closer to Kima.
Mom?
Pamut said, his tone calm and controlled. Kima looked to him, her hesitance and fear barely held back behind a mask of misery.
I know you're scared,
Pamut said.
but I know I can help. None of you know about real magic. You need me there. Anything could happen. I know you don't think I'm strong enough, but...
One moment. That took more than I thought. Wow. Apologies, everyone. I did not expect Pamut's voice to take that much out of me. He paused. His resolve faltering for a moment before he pulled himself up to stand firm and look Kima in the eye once again.
Let me show you that I am. Maybe then you'll believe me.
Kima's expression shattered into sorrow, tears welling up in her eyes. She dropped to one knee and took her son to her arms, hugging him tight. Pamut was clearly startled by this, but didn't pull away. I do believe in you, she said, her voice quaking at first. She pulled back and swiftly wiped away her tears while Pamut watched her in amazement. Of course I do, but you're right, she added with a grim nod. I am scared. All I ever wanted to do was keep you safe, and I always mess it up. She paused, forcing herself to be calm. But listening to fear is never good. Pamut, hope beginning to stir, continued to watch her silently. Kima took a moment to stare at him, reaching up to stroke the edge of his face. Then she seemed to gain control of her emotions and stood up. All right, she said grimly. We do need your help. Come with us, Pamut. Excitement and joy filled the boy's face in an instant. Relief surged through the buzzing at Twist's neck and appeared plainly to Jonas's face. But you must be careful, Kima added quickly. Stay close to one of us the whole time, and don't go anywhere or do anything on your own.
Sure. All right, no problem,
Pamut said, still beaming.
You won't be sorry, Mom. You'll see. I'll show you.
Kima gave him the best smile she could, although it looked deflated and weary. She glanced up at the group around her, and her eyes found Jonas. He looked away from her gaze, but didn't manage to get the obvious relief off his face in time to hide it from her completely. Splendid, Tasha said demurely. Then I assume we can follow my original plan? Kima nodded, reluctant but finally accepting. Twist and Tasha, Twist shot Tasha a knowing look. When she glanced back at him, he saw a gleam of satisfied pride in her dark eyes. I believe that's actually a very good point to stop the reading stream for tonight. I am looking forward to seeing how this battle in the floating village goes, and obviously Tasha knew exactly what she was doing. And to Tasha, I say, well played, well played. Everyone, thank you for joining tonight's reading stream, whether you're here live or you're listening to the VOD on Twitch or YouTube. We will have our final reading stream of the year next Saturday. So if you did enjoy this reading stream, be sure to join next Saturday as well. Apologies. And before we leave, I want to express my sincere thanks to all of you for the support that you give this stream, whether it is, again, likes or follows, or just simply listening, letting friends and family know that here I am, reading stories for the world to listen. With that, I wish you all a wonderful evening, a wonderful weekend, and happy holidays. Whichever holiday you may be celebrating this time of year, I hope that it is a nice, relaxing, and preferably no family dramas involved. And with that, I will see you next time. And now I have to go find my voice. Take care. Bye bye.